Hi, welcome to the buyer negotiation workshop. My name is Brittany Rose, and I am here to achieve one mission today, and that is to make your biggest purchase your best purchase. Most people, they are either purchasing a home for the first time or they haven't purchased a home in several years and the market has changed and selling a home has changed and buying a home has changed and rules and regulations have changed and interest rates have changed. So every time you buy a home, every time you sell a home, every time you purchase an investment property, there are going to be things that are different. And it's up to you to find somebody that you know, like, and trust, or get to know, like, and trust to help guide you through that transaction. So I am going to try to help you walk through what you should expect in today's market, and walk into the home buying process as prepared as possible. And I'm really glad that you're here because we're going to discuss so many things that most people just are not aware of in the home buying process. Even if they bought a house before, there's always variables. So today we're going to talk about learning how to find homes before they hit the market, how to stay cool under pressure, as a negotiation strategy. So often we work with buyers, sellers, and investors who have a difficult time managing their emotions because this is a very emotional process. It's an important process. It's a big deal, and having somebody there to help keep you calm, cool, collected, and logical when you are making the biggest purchase of your life is so helpful. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about how to find local experts that are on your side and strategies to connect with professionals, and for insider negotiation tips. We're also going to talk about how to bulletproof your contract. You know, the contract is probably the most important thing when it comes to purchasing your home. It really lays out all of the rules, regulations, and expectations for the transaction. And a few little tweaks could really make or break a deal. And timing. I always hear people talk about the right time to buy a home, the right time to invest in real estate. We're going to talk a little bit about that. What is the right time? What isn't the right time? And how do you tell the difference? And we're going to talk a little bit about crafting a winning offer, what to do in a multi-offer situation, and a little bit about personalizing a game plan that is just for you. And so if you are moving to a new state, to a new city, to a new neighborhood, this is for you. If you are staying in the same place you've always been and just moving homes, this is for you. If you're struggling to find the right home, this is for you. If you're scared about negotiating this big transaction, this is for you. If you're a first time home buyer, it's for you. If you're a seasoned home buyer, it's for you. This workshop is your key to navigating the home buying process with ease and confidence. And so now I will warn you, there's a lot to cover in this topic, and we will not have time to cover every little detail here. But I promise you will be off to a confident start at the end of this. And I will share more free resources for you to continue to educate yourself. So this won't be everything about the buying process, but it will get you started. And at the end, you'll have a next step, a next several steps, options, and you'll be able to know where to go from here. So, a little bit about me. I know that I look young. I am older than I appear. I've been in real estate about 15 years. Real estate was my very first job. I worked for builders and developers. I have been a realtor, been licensed in DC, Maryland, and Virginia, and soon to be several others. I have been a developer. I am a developer. I am a investor. I am a capital raiser. I help people invest in revitalizing communities. I have founded Women in Real Estate and a program called Tenants to Tycoons, as well as my own development and fund company. So I've done a lot in real estate, and all of it helps me come to the table with a really objective view, a very unique perspective about what's important in a home and what's important in an investment. So I know you're wondering, like, how's this woman gonna help me buy a home? She's running around the world, developing communities and doing all this other stuff. Well, I found the solution. I've built a network of over 75,000 people around the world through various businesses and organizations. And many of those people are real estate agents that I've connected to because they share my core values and beliefs of helping people, helping families and individuals build wealth for themselves and their communities. And not only build it, but pass it down to future generations to protect it, right? Because we spend our whole lives really saving up for this huge investment or really trying to make the most of our earned income so that we have something to show for it at the end of our journey. And then oftentimes it is not protected and passed on properly. So what I did was I took a look of at that 75,000 and I created a select group and they partner with me to partner with you. So I don't need to be in your individual city, state, or county. I have local professionals that are right where you are, that are experts in their market. And I come in from a high level and I help with negotiations and I help with strategy and I help with making this the first step on a very long journey of investment and asset protection for you. And then I have a hyper local agent that is boots on the ground who knows everything about the neighborhoods and the market and the all the little nuances and we create a power team. We create a power team to make sure that you are getting the most out of this transaction and really setting yourself up and your future generations up for success. So, the first thing we'll talk about is staying cool under pressure and managing your emotions during negotiations. I put this first because I think it really sets the tone for what we have to do here in this workshop and what we have to do in the home buying process. These are very big decisions. They can be very emotionally charged decisions. And what you want to do is make sure you have somebody in your corner that can really help you look at things from the most logical perspective and make a decision based on facts and numbers, based on the lifestyle that you are looking to achieve, the investment strategy you are looking to move into, and really your goals and aspirations and dreams for you and your family and for your future generations. So the key to staying cool under pressure is, and you can take what serves you, leave what doesn't, right? But to have things written down, right? Make sure you know walking in what you want, what you don't, what's important. To run the numbers, every decision has an opportunity to see the numbers and the math behind it. Take that into consideration. You want to know what the comparable properties are selling for in the area. You want to know how much the area has appreciated. You want to know the rental comps in the area so that if you decide that you're going to move across the country next year, or you are going to go spend a year traveling to Bali, that you can rent out your property and it's going to give you the money that you need to cover your mortgage and incidentals, insurance, capital expenses, etc. Right? So you want to walk in knowing kind of what you want. Just and I think that's something we really take for granted in life in general. We don't always sit down and really establish what it is that we want our life to look like. This is a great opportunity to do that. You and whoever else is a part of this buying decision really take the opportunity to sit down and establish what it is that you want. Are your most have, what are your nice to haves, and what are your absolute no's, right? And then finally, having a professional guide you. I know that you are probably smart enough to do this yourself, but I am telling you, we all make questionable decisions when there's emotion involved. So having someone that can speak on your behalf to another agent and really be a buffer between the emotion of it all and the actual transaction is key. And also, it's hectic. This process can be a lot of back and forth. It can be a lot of negotiation. It can be a lot of details. And if you have a life, if you are a caregiver, if you have family, you have children, if you have a job, it can be a lot to handle. And just the stress alone can it can mess up negotiations. It can mess up your emotional management. So having someone on your team is really important. So, having local experts at your side and getting those insider negotiation tips also key. You want to work with someone and take advice from someone who is currently in the market. I come from a real estate family. My mother was in real estate probably 15, well, I wouldn't say 15, but probably like 10 years before I got into real estate. I don't know the math exactly, but she was in real estate long before I was. And I would probably still hire someone who is currently in the market. She got out. She's a business owner now. My parents own a couple of restaurants and a food truck. So she's not currently in the market. And even though she's my mom and I love her, and they bought several houses and investment properties, and she was a realtor for most of my life, while I would trust her opinion, I would trust the expert that is currently in the market because things are constantly changing. So when you're developing your team of advisors, your dream team of folks who are going to be like your agent, your title company, your inspector, and you're looking at your friends and family, and maybe some of those people are going to be part of the transaction, you're going to want to manage expectations from yourself and from the folks around you, and really be clear on who you're going to be taking advice from, who is going to be steering the ship, so to speak, and make sure that you trust the person that you're going to take advice from, you trust the agent that you're going to work with, because otherwise this is going to be a much more difficult process than it needs to be. And ultimately, you're the decision maker. You have to live with these decisions, but we want to make sure that you make the most informed decision possible. Don't go up against professionals alone. I know that most people are smart enough to do the research and navigate the home buying process, but experience matters. And if you are going up against me as a first time home buyer, or even if you bought a house 5 years ago, my level of experience and the level of experience that my team has is it's superior. I mean, you just cannot out research people who have been doing this for 15 years, who are doing transactions every week. Every deal is different, every transaction is different. And so as we get more and more reps, we learn more and more. And it is just not wise to go against someone who does this for a living. So make sure that you have somebody on your team that can go up against somebody who is a professional in this space. And then lastly, come prepared. A lot of the home buying process is just paperwork. It's paperwork and it's education. You're starting your education journey right here. You're good to go, but you're also going to have to come prepared with your paperwork. Sometimes it's going to mean submitting paperwork more than once, or having to go back and clarify things for your lender, or having to comb through the details of the HOA documents. So just come with the mindset that you are going to have to do paperwork. I know paperwork is not my favorite thing. I don't think it is anybody's favorite thing, but that is going to be a key to a smooth transaction. Make sure you are reading your emails. Make sure you are reading the resources that we give you. Make sure you are watching these presentations all the way through to the end, so that you can be as educated and prepared as possible. So one of the things that working with a real estate professional is so key for is your contract safeguards. So we all have templated contracts that the real estate association designs, and for the most part, they are designed to protect the buyer. The seller doesn't need as many protections. There are definitely protections for the seller, like making sure there's an earnest money deposit and making sure that if the contingency dates aren't met, you have some safeguards there, you're protecting your asset. But really, I think the riskiest for the buyer, because they are taking on such a large asset. They are walking into something that they did not live in before and don't know of, right? So the contracts that we have are designed by professionals, by lawyers, and they are used by almost everyone. So using a real estate professional is so important because we're all speaking the same language. We all have the same contracts. We all know the same, ways to go through them and all of the details of them. And so, but they're also really designed to protect you as a buyer. So you really want to be using a contract that is designed by the local real estate association. And in those contracts, there are things called contingencies. If you're a first time home buyer, you might not have heard of contingencies before, but they allow us to back out of a contract without losing your deposit. So if you don't get funding from your lender, you're not losing your deposit. Or if there's an inspection period and there are some big glaring issues that come up, you can walk away and keep your deposit. Or a myriad of other things, like your HOA. You look at the HOA documents and they're crazy. And you're like, no, I don't want to do this, right? There are contingencies in place that help protect you. And there are dates to those contingencies that a real estate professional will be able to advise you on okay, let's go with a longer contingency period because we need more time for the inspection, or let's go with a shorter contingency period so that we can be really aggressive about our offer and hopefully get our offer accepted in a multiple offer situation. Those types of things make a difference. So you want to make sure that when working with a real estate professional, you're working with the templated contract, and it protects you too, right? You know that this is the same contract that everybody else is using. There's no like gotchas in the contract. It's templated. Everybody uses the same one. So that's a real advantage to working with a real estate professional through this process. Let's talk about timing the market. So, a lot of folks, and this is not a new conversation. This is a pretty tried and true conversation, especially since the Great Recession around 2008. A lot of folks want to time the market. They, when there was this huge boom over the pandemic, people were saying, well, I'm not going to buy right now because if there's a recession, or there is going to be a recession, and all the prices are going to crash. That has not happened yet. Now, I will say I'm not a fortune teller, and anybody who tells you that they know what's going to happen in the market, I would be cautious of because it's just so nuanced. There are so many things happening. So the way that I approached timing the market is really to hedge my bets, right? I'm making smart buying decisions. I'm planning to be in a property for the next 20 years. I'm planning to accelerate my mortgage payments so that I'm not paying as much interest on my property in the front end, and that I'm building equity faster over the long haul. I am making sure that I'm buying at the hopefully the lower end of the nicest neighborhood, right? There are things that you can do, strategies you can employ to make sure that you are making sound financial decisions when you're buying a home. And so let's be clear, a recession does not mean a reduction in price. It is debatable as to whether we are currently in a recession. But we have seen prices generally hold steady. And part of the reason we are seeing that is because we have a supply and demand problem in the United States. We are drastically undersupplied. We have way more people who want to buy houses than we have that can buy houses, that we have inventory available. Part of this is because the silent generation and the baby boomers are trying to age in place. They are not interested in always selling their homes. If they are selling their homes, they are downsizing. Part of it is millennials don't necessarily want McMansions that the baby boomers are now trying to sell. There's just so much nuance to it. But I guess the point of it all is you cannot time the market. You can make very smart strategic decisions. You can hold property over the long haul. If you bought in 2008 or before 2008 during the last boom and you held it until now, your property is not underwater, right? If you held out for the long term, you saw your property dip for the crash, but it rebounded. And so that's the point, making smart decisions, making smart plans, looking into the future. That's also why I mentioned making sure you know rental comps for the area. If you wanted to move up into a larger property, but you wanted to hold on to your property, you could rent it out and become a landlord, or you can hire a property manager if you don't want to deal with the landlord issues, right? But having a strategy in place is really going to be the best timing the market that you can get. So let's talk about buying power. So there are two pieces to buying power. There are interest rates and there are price. And so this bleeds into a little bit of what I was saying before, about the market and what the market is doing and how it's affecting us all in making our buying decisions and affecting our buying power. So during the pandemic, part of the reason there was this boom in real estate was because interest rates were at historical lows. I do not expect us ever to get back to those types of interest rates. Unfortunately, if we miss the boat, we miss the boat, right? But interest rates now are at a pretty average level when you look over time. This is a pretty average interest rate. And I would not base a buying decision on my interest rate in terms of timing. I would, if I am in the position to buy, if right now is the right time for me to buy in my life, I would go ahead and buy. And I would buy what I can afford with however the interest rates are right now. That way, if they drop, you can re-strategize. You can refinance, or you can figure out some other strategies to bring down your pricing, right? Your monthly price. I would buy what I can afford at today's interest rates, but I wouldn't wait for the interest rates to drop because, number one, I don't think that there is a reason for interest rates to drop. But number two, because when interest rates decrease, prices increase. So price is one of those things that is determined by supply and demand. And obviously, if interest rates are lower, more people can afford more. And so prices go up. That's what we saw during the pandemic. We saw these crazy bidding wars. We saw people going way over the appraised value because they had to in order to purchase a home. They were getting outbid at every corner. So if you're waiting for interest rates to drop, that might not actually be the best strategy, because it's very likely that as more people flood into the market and we already don't have enough inventory, prices will just hike back up and you will need to be coming out of pocket, in order to get into the home that you want. So be mindful about, again, timing the market, or waiting for interest rates to drop, or waiting for a recession to come and crash all the prices. Those things could all happen. They could all happen, but it's not really a solid strategy to wait for them to happen. So, what should you expect during the home buying process? Okay, well, if you are working with me and my team, you should expect number one, a buyer's consultation. So, what does that mean? It means we sit down and we talk through your plan, not only for this home, but your plan for future real estate endeavors and investments, your plan of what you want to leave to the next generation, your plans of if you're going to stay local, if you're going to be moving abroad or moving out of the area eventually, when do you want to retire? What does that look like? All of those things go into our buyer consultation, including things about your lifestyle. Are you an outdoorsy person? Are you trying to be in the city? Are schools really important to you? Are your grandchildren really important to you and you want to live right down the street from them? All of those things we take into consideration and we create a customized plan just for you. Number two, we want to go for the financing. That's the linchpin, right? We can't buy a house if we don't have the money. So we're going to work to get you pre-qualified, and we're going to stay away from those large mortgage pre-qualification chop shops online, the Quicken Loans and the Rocket Mortgage. Those people, while they're completely credible institutions, they don't always do their due diligence when they pre-approve folks. And so what happens is if we submit an offer and the pre-qualification letter says, oh, you have, or the pre-approval letter, you have been pre-qualified or pre-approved for 500,000, and I'm the listing agent, I'm the person who is selling the home, and I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh, Rocket Mortgage, well, did they actually submit any financials for Rocket Mortgage to say that this is what they are going to approve them for? And so when I'm looking at two different offers, or when I'm looking at 10 different offers, and I'm looking at this Rocket Mortgage offer, I'm wondering, is this credible? Did Rocket Mortgage actually go through your financials and give you the okay? Are they going to actually fund this transaction for you? And we don't want to leave any questions in the minds of the listing agent. So we want to just avoid that and go with a local lender, or even if it's not a local lender, someone who is really involved in the process and can really speak to your qualifications in purchasing the home. Oftentimes, what will happen is if we're in an aggressive negotiation, or if the listing agent is really good at their due diligence, they will ask to speak to the lender because they want to make sure that they are going to be getting into a contract with somebody who is going to make it to the closing table and have no problems getting through the funding part of the transaction. So number three, we're going to go shopping, which is everybody's favorite part, and we are going to evaluate all of the options. So when you're finding your house, your home, your investment property, etc., most people who work with us can make a safe bet that by the seventh showing, they're going to find something that they love. Now, there's going to be negotiations, and there might be things that come up in inspections that make it not your ideal house. And then we can move on, we can start over, we can look again. But I would expect you to be able to find something that you'd like to put an offer on within 7 showings. Now, when you're looking and searching for a home, the traditional way to go is that, you get on Redfin or Zillow. And while it's great for home browsing, and I use it too, just, to get my daily fix of home browsing, I also want you to be cautious because some of those sites have inaccurate data, and it is slightly purposeful because if the house is under contract or the house has been sold, they might not update that as quickly as possible, because the longer it's available, the more chance they have for someone like you to say, oh, I'm interested, let me give you my information, right? And going on that same train of thought, the agents that you are reaching out to oftentimes are not the listing agents for those properties. And so they are just agents that have paid a lot of money to receive your information from Redfin or Zillow or Trulia or wherever. So you're not actually talking to the professional in the transaction. You're instead talking to a middle person that you may or may not want to be talking to, right? So that's an important thing to note. Tips and tricks for open houses, for sale by owners, and new construction. Just a couple quick things. Whether you have an agent or not, it is perfectly okay for you to want to go to open houses or shop new construction. But there are a couple of things you should keep in mind. When you're going to open houses, you should register with your agent's information. And I'm only telling you this so that you don't receive drip email campaign every 30 days and text messages and phone calls from the agent that is at the open house wanting to represent you, because you already have representation, right? And same thing with new construction. And it's even more important with new construction, because with new construction, if you register with your own personal information, you do not indicate that you are working with an agent, and then you decide to buy with that new construction company, and you say, okay, well, here's my agent. I want this person to represent me, which you should absolutely have someone to represent you, because the agent that's sitting in that model home, they're representing the seller. They are not representing you. They have no fiduciary duty to you, right? So you want to have somebody representing you. But if you already registered, chances are that new home construction company is not going to allow you to use the agent, or they are going to say, well, that's all well and good, but you're going to have to pay for that agent yourself. Whereas typically they would pick up the tab. So it's really important to register with your agent's information. And then working with for sale by owners, for sale by owners, nothing against it, but oftentimes those people do not have the tools and resources that professional agents do. And so how they are coming to know the price of their property, what their property should be going for, what improvements should be made, what contingency should be put in the contract, I don't know. I don't know how they're figuring all of that out, but it makes things a little bit more difficult when you have either two people shooting in the dark or a seller who just does not know what's going on. This is not their profession, trying to negotiate with a professional, right? So keep those things in mind. And then number 4, after we find a home that works for you, we're going to go into making an offer and how to navigate a multi-offer situation. And so there are a lot of things that we want to consider when making our offer. Of course, price, of course, how quickly we can close, and then all of those little contingencies and terms of the contract really make a difference. I think the most important thing that makes a difference is communication. Having an agent that is really great with communicating with the other agent, or even having an agent that is well networked, who knows that other agent already, can really be helpful in making or breaking, getting your offer accepted. Couple quick tips about winning in a multi-offer situation. Make sure you're prepared to move quickly, and that goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning about just being prepared, knowing what you want, knowing what you don't want, being able to make a decision quickly. Be willing to do a pre-inspection so that we can waive the inspection contingency. That is a really cool trick that a lot of agents missed out on in the pandemic boom. A lot of people were waiving inspections, but what some of the less experienced agents didn't pick up on is, just because the inspection wasn't a contingency in the contract doesn't mean that the inspection wasn't done before the contract was written, right? So making sure that you know all those little nuances are important. A lot of people got into homes that they probably would not have bought if they had done an inspection, right? I always recommend doing an inspection. If your area allows it, writing a love letter. Oftentimes, sellers want to know that the property that they have invested into and transformed and grown to love is going to go to a family that is going to love it just as much. And so, being able to share who you are and why this property is important to you might push you over the edge. Offer to pay title insurance, and make sure you're working with someone, and make sure you are following all the instructions and demonstrate excellent communication skills. And then be willing to pay the offer price if it does not appraise. Now, this is going to be different in everybody's circumstance, but there are a couple things that happen in appraisals. Number one, let me say the lender, they select the person who is going to do the appraisal, and it is a way of them protecting their investment. They want to know that the home you're buying is worth the price that they are lending to you, right? If the home is worth more than the sales price that you all have agreed to, you get to keep a bunch of equity. Whatever the amount is in between, whatever the spread is, you get to keep that equity. If the home is at the appraised value, the sales price and the appraised value are the same, it's all good, everybody's good, it's just what it is, right? If the home price is over what the appraised price is, then you or the buyer, or I mean, sorry, you or the seller, or both of you have to cover the difference. The bank is not going to participate in covering that difference, right? So just be aware that that might be an issue that comes up, and know what you want to do if it does. And then we talk about due diligence. So when we're doing due diligence, we are looking for inspections to come back clean and clear. We're looking to make sure that there are no big ticket items that need to be repaired. If we do need to have something taken care of, we probably want to get a credit for it. That way we can work with folks that are true professionals and that can provide warranties and can guarantee the work has been done correctly, accurately, properly. And then the lenders going to make sure that they've done their due diligence, that all of the underwriting comes back all good to go. Title is going to make sure that they've done their due diligence and that there are no clouds on the title. So there's nobody who's going to come back and say, oh, well, actually, I own this property and I didn't sell it to you, so now you got to give me my property back, right? None of that. And then once all of that is done and everybody has done their part, we are clear to close. And that just means we go transfer the remaining monies, if any, that are required for the closing process, and sign some documents and grab your keys. So that's what you should expect during the process. Now, there are a couple concerns that I hear from buyers a lot. A lot of people say, I want to wait one more year. Now, oftentimes, what I found is people saying that they want to wait one more year is usually because they're nervous. They don't feel like they're ready. They don't feel like they have everything in line. And usually it's a case of you telling yourself no before somebody else can tell you no. And so I always tell people, like, don't stop your own dream. If somebody else says, no, you can't do it, I can't help you, you're not qualified, that's one thing. But you saying that before you've ever even tried, before you've ever talked to a professional, someone who actually does this, not someone who is guessing, right? Before you do that, you really want to make sure you sit down and take inventory of where you are. And if if it's not an absolute, like, I absolutely cannot move for a personal reason, or I absolutely cannot buy a house for a personal reason, or you just don't want to, that's one thing. But waiting one more year oftentimes does not change a situation, because you don't usually have a very clear game plan or an accountability partner to make sure that the changes that you needed to make are made. Another thing that I hear from buyers is, I want to wait for the market to crash. We've talked about this. I don't know that it's going to. And if it does, it's probably going to be really difficult to get funding so that you can you can then go in and buy, right? So keep that in mind and try to develop a strategy that makes sense for whatever the market might do. Okay. um, I'm going to work with a friend or family member as my real estate agent. I understand. We want to do business with people that we know, like, and trust, right? But this is the biggest buying decision of your life. And you want to make sure that that person is up to the challenge, that they know what they're doing, that they are completely prepared. And so if you really, really, really want to work with, your cousin, your aunt, your uncle, your mom, okay, I'm all for it. But maybe you should consider sitting down with somebody on our team and having those two agents partner together, so that you are getting the best of both worlds. You're getting someone who loves you dearly, who always has your best interest in mind, who's watched you grow up, yada, yada, yada. And you're getting someone who knows this market in and out, knows your neighborhood, knows what what is going to take to make the best financial decisions. Also, we hear, I don't have enough money saved up. Again, don't be the person who tells yourself no. Come, let's talk. Let's see what you actually have saved, if anything, and what you might actually need, if anything. I have seen people walk away from the closing table with money. Like, they didn't pay money for their house, they got paid money for their house, right? So everybody's circumstance is different, and you really need to talk to a professional to establish if, you know, where you are and what you need to do. My credit isn't good enough. Same thing, same story. Your credit might be good enough, or you might have one collection and we can negotiate it for you, and then you're ready to go, right? Something that you might have thought was going to take 6 months might take 30 days, right? Speaking to a lender can be very helpful in establishing really truly where you are and how we can get you over the finish line, what you need to do to get over the finish line. And lastly, I don't feel ready. Nobody feels ready most of the time. Most people do not feel ready. And so I'm not saying to buy a home if you don't feel ready, but I am saying that you need to have a plan in place so that you can get ready. Just arbitrarily saying, "Oh, I'm not ready yet. I'll get there." That's not in your best interest. You need a plan. So how do you get a plan? Well, when you work with us, we give you a home buying course with even more detail than what we go through here. This we have to keep this kind of brief because nobody is interested in a 10-hour course the first time when they're talking to us, right? And then we will create a customized guide and consultation strategy for you. We can recommend vendors in your area, and then we also create a VIP agreement with you, which basically is a written agreement between the two of us about what kind of service you can expect for us to give to you. And if at any time you decide you don't want to work with us anymore, you just send us an email saying, "Hey, I'm not feeling it," and you can move on. So it's not anything that you're bound to for the rest of your life, but it does just help us know that you are in it for the long haul. It helps you know what to expect and what you should expect from us, and it is also part of the National Association of Realtors standards. So we're all done here, kept it under 45 minutes. So I hope you were able to stick with us to the very, very end. Look around this video wherever you are watching it. It might be in your email, it might be on YouTube, it might be on a website, but there should be a link to book a consultation. Invite all key decision makers to this workshop and to the consultation, and let's talk about your home buying plan. I know that there's a strategy that will work for you. I know that even though affordability is something that we are concerned about in this country, inventory is something we are concerned about in this country, I know that it is possible for you. So I want to just sit down, talk. You'll either meet with myself or a team member, but let's devise a plan and let's get you to the finish line. Well, the finish line and the starting line of your future investment journey as well. I really look forward to meeting you, to talking with you, and to working with you.